During meals, insulin levels are raised. This allows glucose uptake by tissues such as the muscle or brain for direct use as energy. Excess glucose is stored as glycogen in the liver. 2. The post-absorptive phase, 6 to 24 hours after fasting starts. Insulin levels begin to fall. The breakdown of glycogen releases glucose for energy. Glycogen stores last for roughly 24 hours. 3. Gluconeogenesis, 24 hours to 2 days. The liver manufactures new glucose from amino acids and glycerol. In non-diabetic persons, glucose levels fall but stay within the normal range. 4. Ketosis, 1 to 3 days after fasting starts. The storage form of fat, triglycerides, is broken into the glycerol backbone and 3 fatty acid chains. Glycerol is used for gluconeogenesis. Fatty acids may be used directly for energy by many tissues in the body, but not the brain. Ketone bodies, capable of crossing the blood-brain barrier, are produced from fatty acids for use by the brain. Ketones can supply up to 75% of the energy used by the brain. The 2 major types of ketones produced are beta-hydroxybutyrate and acetoacetate, which can increase more than 70-fold during fasting. 5. Protein conservation phase, after 5 days. High levels of growth hormone maintain muscle mass and lean tissues. The energy for maintenance of basal metabolism is almost entirely met by the use of free fatty acids and ketones. Increased norepinephrine, adrenaline levels prevent the decrease in metabolic rate. The human body is well adapted for dealing with the absence of food. What we're describing here is the process the body undergoes to switch from burning glucose, short-term, to burning fat, long-term. Fat is simply the body's stored food energy. In times of food scarcity, stored food, fat, is naturally released to fill the void. The body does not burn muscle in an effort to feed itself until all the fat stores are used. It's crucial to note that all these beneficial adaptive changes do not occur in the caloric reduction diet strategy. How your hormones adapt to fasting. Insulin. Fasting is the most efficient and consistent strategy to decrease insulin levels, a fact first noted decades ago and widely accepted as true. All foods raise insulin. Therefore, the most effective method of reducing insulin is to avoid all foods. Blood glucose levels remain normal as the body switches over to burning fat for energy. This effect occurs with fasting periods as short as 24 to 36 hours. Longer fasts reduce insulin even more dramatically. More recently, alternate daily fasting has been studied as an acceptable technique for reducing insulin levels. Regular fasting, by routinely lowering insulin levels, has been shown to significantly improve insulin sensitivity. This finding is the missing piece in the weight loss puzzle. Most diets restrict the intake of foods that cause increased insulin secretion, but don't address insulin resistance. You lose weight initially, but insulin resistance keeps your insulin levels and body set weight high. By fasting, you can efficiently reduce your body's insulin resistance, since it requires both persistent and high levels. Insulin causes salt and water retention in the kidneys, so lowering insulin levels rids the body of excess salt and water. Fasting is often accompanied by an early, rapid weight loss. For the first 5 days, weight loss averages 1.9 pounds, 0.9 kilograms per day, far exceeding the loss that could be expected from the caloric restriction, and is probably due to diuresis. Diuresis reduces bloating and may also lower blood pressure slightly. Growth hormone. Growth hormone is known to increase the availability and utility of fats for fuel. It also helps to preserve muscle mass and bone density. Growth hormone secretion is difficult to measure accurately because of its intermittent release, but it decreases steadily with age. One of the most potent stimuli to growth hormone secretion is fasting. Over a 5-day fasting period, growth hormone secretion more than doubled. The net physiologic effect is to maintain muscle and bone tissue mass during the fasting period. Adrenaline. Fasting increases adrenaline levels, starting at around 24 hours. 48 hours of fasting produces a 3.6% increase in metabolic rate, not the dreaded metabolic shutdown so often seen in caloric reduction strategies. In response to a 4-day fast, resting energy expenditure increased up to 14%. Rather than slowing metabolism, the body revs it up instead. Presumably, it does this so we have energy to go out and find more food. Electrolytes. Many people worry that fasting may cause malnutrition, but this concern is misplaced. The body's fat stores are, for most of us, quite ample for our body's needs. Even studies of prolonged fasting have found no evidence of malnutrition or micronutrient deficiency. Potassium levels may decrease slightly, but even 2 months of continuous fasting did not decrease levels below normal, even without the use of supplements. Note that this duration of fasting is far longer than is generally recommended without medical supervision. Magnesium, calcium, and phosphorus levels during fasting are stable, presumably because of the large stores of these minerals in the bones. 99% of the body's calcium and phosphorus is stored in the bones. A multivitamin supplement will provide the recommended daily allowance of micronutrients. In one case, a therapeutic fast of 382 days was maintained with only a multivitamin with no harmful effect on the subject's health. Actually, this man maintained that he felt terrific during the entire period. There were no episodes of hypoglycemia, as blood sugars were maintained within the normal range. The only concern may be a slight elevation in uric acid, which has been described in fasting. Myths about fasting. Many fasting myths have been repeated so often that they are often perceived as infallible truths. Consider the following. Fasting will make you lose muscle, burn protein. The brain needs glucose to function. Fasting puts you in starvation mode, lowers basal metabolism. Fasting will overwhelm you with hunger. Fasting causes overeating when you resume feeding. Fasting deprives the body of nutrients. Fasting causes hypoglycemia. It's just crazy. If these myths were true, none of us would be alive today. Think about the consequences of burning muscle for energy. During long winters, there were many days where no food was available. After the first episode, you would be severely weakened. After several repeated episodes, you would be so weak that you would be unable to hunt or gather food. Humans would never have survived as a species. The better question would be why the human body would store energy as fat if it planned to burn protein instead. The answer, of course, is that it does not burn muscle in the absence of food. That is only a myth. Starvation mode, as it is popularly known, is the mysterious boogeyman, always raised to scare us away from missing even a single meal. This is simply absurd. Breakdown of muscle tissue happens only at extremely low levels of body fat, approximately 4%, which is not something most people need to worry about. At this point, there's no further body fat to be mobilized for energy, and lean tissue is consumed. The human body has evolved to survive episodic periods of starvation. Fat is stored energy, and muscle is functional tissue. Fat is burned first. This situation is akin to storing a huge amount of firewood, but deciding to burn your sofa instead. It's stupid. Why do we assume the human body is so stupid? The body preserves muscle mass until fat stores become so low that it has no other choice. Studies of alternate daily fasting, for example, show that the concern over muscle loss is largely misplaced. Alternate daily fasting over 70 days decreased body weight by 6%, but fat mass decreased by 11.4%. Lean mass, including muscle and bone, did not change at all. Significant improvements were seen in LDL cholesterol and triglyceride levels. Growth hormone increased to maintain muscle mass. Studies of eating a single meal per day found significantly more fat loss compared to eating 3 meals per day, despite the same caloric intake. Significantly, no evidence of muscle loss was found. There is another persistent myth that brain cells require glucose for proper functioning. This is incorrect. Human brains, unique among animals, can use ketones as a major fuel source during prolonged starvation, allowing the conservation of proteins such as skeletal muscle. Again, consider the consequences if glucose were absolutely necessary for survival. Humans just wouldn't survive. After 24 hours, glucose becomes depleted. If our brains had no alternative, we would become blubbering idiots as our brains shut down. Our intellect, our only advantage against wild animals, would begin to disappear. Fat is the body's way of storing food energy for the long term. It uses glucose, glycogen, in the short term. When short-term stores are depleted, the body turns to its long-term stores without problem. Hepatic gluconeogenesis provides the small amount of glucose necessary. The other persistent myth of starvation mode is that it causes our basal metabolism to decrease severely and our bodies to shut down. This response, if it were a fact, would also be highly disadvantageous to survival of the human species. If periodic starvation caused our metabolism to decrease, then we would have less energy to hunt or gather food. With less energy, we would be less likely to get food. So, another day passes and we become even weaker, making us even less likely to get food, a vicious and unsurvivable cycle. It's stupid. There are, in fact, no species of animal, humans included, that have evolved to require 3 meals a day, every day. It's unclear to me where this myth originated. Daily caloric restriction does, in fact, lead to decreased metabolism, so people have assumed that this effect would be magnified as food intake dropped to 0. It won't. Decreasing food intake is matched by decreased energy expenditure. However, as food intake goes to 0, the body switches energy inputs from food to stored food, fat. This strategy significantly increases the availability of food, which is matched by an increase in energy expenditure. So what happened in the Minnesota starvation experiment? Refer to chapter 3. These participants were not fasting, but instead eating a reduced calorie diet. The hormonal adaptations to fasting were not allowed to happen. Adrenaline was not increased to maintain total energy expenditure. Growth hormone was not increased to maintain lean muscle mass. Ketones were not produced to feed the brain. Detailed physiologic measurements show that total energy expenditure is increased over the duration of the fast. 22 days of alternate daily fasting created no measurable decrease in total energy expenditure. There was no starvation mode. There was no decreased metabolism. Fat oxidation increased 58%, while carbohydrate oxidation decreased from 53%. The body had started to switch over from burning sugar to burning fat, with no overall drop in energy. 4 days of continuous fasting actually increased total energy expenditure by 12%. Norepinephrine, adrenaline levels skyrocketed 117% to maintain energy. Fatty acids increased over 370% as the body switched to burning fat. Insulin decreased 17%. Blood glucose levels dropped slightly, but remained in the normal range. Concerns are raised repeatedly that fasting may provoke overeating. Studies of caloric intake do show a slight increase at the next meal. After a 1-day fast, average caloric intake increased from 2,436 to 2,914. But over the entire 2-day period, there was still a net deficit of 1,958 calories. The increased calories on the day after the fast did not nearly make up for the lack of calories on the fasting day. Personal experience in our clinic shows that appetite tends to decrease with increased duration of fasting. Fasting, extreme cases and gender differences. In 1960, Dr. Garfield Duncan of the Pennsylvania Hospital in Philadelphia described his experience with the use of intermittent fasting in the treatment of 107 obese subjects. Subjects who had been unable to lose weight with caloric restriction had lost hope and agreed to try fasting. One patient, WH, started off weighing 325 pounds, 147 kilograms, and taking 3 blood pressure tablets. Over the next 14 days, he would subsist on nothing but water, tea, coffee, and a multivitamin. He found the first 2 days difficult, but then, to his astonishment, his hunger simply vanished. After losing 24 pounds, 11 kilograms in the first 14 days, he continued with shorter fasting periods, losing a total of 81 pounds, 37 kilograms over the next 6 months. Perhaps most surprising was his sense of vigor during the prolonged fasting period. Dr. Duncan wrote, "A sense of well-being was associated with the fast." While most expect the fasting period to be extremely difficult, clinicians noted the exact opposite. Dr. E. Drenick wrote, "The most astonishing aspect of this study was the ease with which prolonged starvation was tolerated." Others have described the sensation as a mild euphoria, contrasting starkly with the constant hunger, weakness, and cold experienced by most low-calorie dieters, as meticulously detailed in the Minnesota starvation experiment. These experiences echo our own clinical experiences at the Intensive Dietary Management Clinic with hundreds of patients. Physicians have advocated fasting as far back as the mid-1800s. In modern medicine, reference to fasting can be found as early as 1915, but thereafter it seems to fall out of favor. In 1951, Dr. W. L. Bloom of Piedmont Hospital in Atlanta rediscovered fasting as a treatment for morbid obesity. Others followed, including Drs. Duncan and Drenick, who described their positive experiences in the Journal of the American Medical Association. In an extreme case, in 1973, physicians monitored a man during a 382-day therapeutic fast. Originally weighing 456 pounds, he finished his fast at 180 pounds. No electrolyte abnormalities were noted throughout the period, and the patient felt well throughout. Several differences are noted in fasting between women and men. Plasma glucose tends to fall faster in women, and ketosis develops more quickly. With increasing body weight, however, the sex differences disappears. Most importantly, the rate of weight loss does not differ substantially between men and women. Personal experience with hundreds of both men and women failed to convince me of any substantial difference between the sexes when it comes to fasting. Intermittent fasting and caloric reduction. The one crucial aspect that differentiates fasting from other diets is its intermittent nature. Diets fail because of their constancy. The defining characteristic of life on Earth is homeostasis. Any constant stimulus will eventually be met with an adaptation that resists the change. Persistent exposure to decreased calories results in adaptation, resistance. The body eventually responds by reducing total energy expenditure, leading to the dreaded plateau in weight loss and eventually to weight regain. A 2011 study compared a portion-controlled strategy to an intermittent fasting strategy. The portion control group reduced daily calories by 25%. For example, if a person normally ate 2,000 calories per day, he or she would reduce intake to 1,500 calories per day. Over a week, he or she would receive a total of 10,500 calories of a Mediterranean-style diet, which is generally acknowledged to be healthy. The intermittent fasting group got 100% of their calories for 5 days of the week, but on the other 2 days got only 25%. For example, they received 2,000 calories for 5 days of the week, but on the other 2 days, they would receive only 500, a structure very similar to the 5-to-2 diet championed by Dr. Michael Mosley. Over a week, they would receive 11,000 calories, slightly more than the portion control group. At 6 months, weight loss was similar between the groups, 14.3 pounds or 6.5 kilograms. But as we know, in the short term, all diets work. However, the intermittent fasting group showed significantly lower insulin levels and insulin resistance. Intermittent diets produced far greater benefits by introducing periods of very low insulin levels that help break the resistance. Further studies confirm that the combination of intermittent fasting with caloric restriction is effective for weight loss. The more dangerous visceral fat seems to be preferentially removed. Important risk factors, including LDL cholesterol, low-density lipoproteins, size of low-density lipoproteins, and triglycerides were also improved. The reverse is also true. Does increasing meal size or frequency contribute to obesity? A recent randomized controlled trial comparing the two demonstrated that only the group with increased eating frequency significantly increased intrahepatic fat. Fatty liver is instrumental in the development of insulin resistance. Increasing the timing of meals has a far more detrimental long-term effect on weight gain. Yet, while we obsess over the question of what to eat, we virtually ignore the crucial aspect of meal timing. Weight gain is not a steady process. Average yearly weight gain in North Americans is about 1.3 pounds, 0.6 kilograms, but that increase is not constant. The year-end holiday period produces a whopping 60% of this yearly weight gain in just 6 weeks. There is a small weight loss after the holidays, which is not sufficient to counter the gain. In other words, feasting must be followed by fasting. When we remove the fasting and keep all the feasting, we get weight gain. This is the ancient secret. This is the cycle of life. Fasting follows feasting. Feasting follows fasting. Diets must be intermittent, not steady. Food is a celebration of life. Every single culture in the world celebrates with large feasts. That's normal, and it's good. However, religion has always reminded us that we must balance our feasting with periods of fasting, atonement, repentance, or cleansing. These ideas are ancient and time-tested. Should you eat lots of food on your birthday? Absolutely. Should you eat lots of food at a wedding? Absolutely. These are times to celebrate and indulge. But there is also a time to fast. We cannot change this cycle of life. We cannot feast all the time. We cannot fast all the time. It won't work. It doesn't work. Can you do it? Those who have never attempted fasting may be daunted by it. However, as with everything else, fasting becomes much easier with practice. Let's see. Devout Muslims fast for 1 month of the year and are supposed to fast 2 days a week. There are an estimated 1.6 billion Muslims in the world. There are an estimated 14 million Mormons who are supposed to fast once a month. There are an estimated 350 million Buddhists in the world, many of whom fast regularly. Almost 1/3 of the population of the entire world is supposed to routinely fast throughout their entire lives. There's no question that it can be done. Furthermore, it is clear that there are no lasting negative side effects to regular fasting. Quite the contrary, it appears to have extraordinary health benefits. Fasting can be combined with any diet imaginable. It makes no difference whether you don't eat meat, dairy, or gluten. You can still fast. Eating grass-fed organic beef is healthy, but can be prohibitively expensive. Fasting contains no hidden costs, but instead saves you money. Eating only homemade, prepared-from-scratch meals is also undoubtedly healthy, but can often be prohibitively time-consuming in our hectic lives. Fasting comes with no time constraints, but instead saves time. No time is required for shopping, food preparation, eating, or cleanup. Life becomes simpler because you do not need to worry about the next meal. Conceptually, fasting is also very simple. The essential elements of fasting can be explained in 2 minutes. There are no questions such as, can I eat whole wheat? Or how many calories in that slice of bread? Or how many carbs in that pie? Or even, are avocados healthy? The bottom line is that fasting is something that we can do, and that we should do. Refer to Appendix B for some practical tips on successfully introducing fasting into your lifestyle. So that answers the 2 unspoken questions. Is it unhealthy? The answer is no. Scientific studies conclude that fasting carries significant health benefits. Metabolism increases, energy increases, and blood sugars decrease. The only remaining question is this. Can you do it? I hear this one all the time. Absolutely. 100% yes. In fact, fasting has been a part of human culture since the dawn of our species. Skip a few meals. Ask a child how to lose weight, and there's a good chance he or she will answer, skip a few meals. This suggestion is probably the simplest and most correct answer. Instead, we concoct all sorts of intricate rules. Eat 6 times a day. Eat a big breakfast. Eat low fat. Keep a food diary. Count your calories. Real food labels. Avoid all processed foods. Avoid white foods. White sugar, white flour, white rice. Eat more fiber. Eat more fruits and vegetables. Mind your microbiome. Eat simple foods. Eat protein with every meal. Eat raw food. Eat organic food. Count your Weight Watcher points. Count your carbs. Increase exercise. Do resistance and cardio. Measure your metabolism and eat less than that. The list of intricate rules is virtually endless, with more coming every day. It is mildly ironic that even while following this endless list, we're getting fatter than ever. The simple truth is that weight loss comes down to understanding the hormonal roots of obesity. Insulin is the main driver. Obesity is a hormonal, not a caloric imbalance. There are not 1, but 2 main considerations for proper food choices. 1, what to eat. 2, when to eat. In considering the first question, there are simple guidelines to follow. Reduce intake of refined grains and sugars, moderate protein consumption, and increase natural fats. Maximize protective factors such as fiber and vinegar. Choose only natural, unprocessed foods. In considering the second question, balance insulin-dominant periods with insulin-deficient periods. Balance your feeding and fasting. Eating continuously is a recipe for weight gain. Intermittent fasting is a very effective way to deal with when to eat. In the end, the question is this. If you don't eat, will you lose weight? Yes, of course. So there's no real doubt about its efficacy. It will work. There are other factors that affect insulin and weight loss, such as sleep deprivation and stress, cortisol effect. If these are the major pathways of obesity, they must be directly addressed, not with diet, but with techniques such as proper sleep hygiene, meditation, prayer, or massage therapy. For each of us, there will be some factors that are more important than others. For some, sugars may be the main pathway to obesity. For others, it will be chronic sleep deprivation. For yet others, it will be excessive refined grains. For still others, it will be meal timing. Lowering sugar intake will not be so effective if the underlying problem is chronic sleep disturbances. Similarly, better sleep habits will not help if the problem is excessive sugar intake. What we have tried to develop here is a framework for understanding the complexity of human obesity. A deep and thorough understanding of the causes of obesity leads to rational and successful treatment. A new hope arises. we can begin to dream again of a world where type 2 diabetes is eradicated, where metabolic syndrome is abolished, a dream of a thinner, healthier tomorrow. That world, that vision, that dream, it starts today. Appendix B. Fasting, a practical guide. Fasting is defined as the voluntary act of withholding food for a specific period of time. Non-caloric drinks, such as water and tea, are permitted. An absolute fast refers to the withholding of both food and drink. This may be done for religious purposes, such as during Ramadan in the Muslim tradition, but is not generally recommended for health purposes because of the accompanying dehydration. Fasting has no standard duration. Fasts can range from 12 hours to 3 months or more. You can fast once a week, or once a month, or once a year. Intermittent fasting involves fasting for shorter periods of time on a regular basis. Shorter fasts are generally done more frequently. Some people prefer a daily 16-hour fast, which means that they eat all their meals within an 8-hour window. Longer fasts are typically 24 to 36 hours, done 2 to 3 times per week. Prolonged fasting may range from 1 week to 1 month. During a 24-hour fast, you fast from dinner or lunch or breakfast the first day until dinner or lunch or breakfast the next day. Practically, this means missing breakfast, lunch, and snacks on the fasting day and only eating a single meal, dinner. Essentially, you skip 2 meals as you fast from 7 p.m. to 7 p.m. the next day. During a 36-hour fast, you fast from dinner on the first day until breakfast 2 days later. This means missing breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks for 1 entire day. You would be skipping 3 meals as you fast from 7 p.m. the first day to 7 a.m. 2 days later. See Appendix A for sample meal plans and fasting protocols. Longer fasting periods produce lower insulin levels, greater weight loss, and greater blood sugar reduction in diabetics. In the intensive dietary management clinic, we will typically use a 24-hour or 36-hour fast 2 to 3 times per week. For severe diabetes, patients may fast for 1 to 2 weeks, but only under close medical supervision. You may take a general multivitamin if you're concerned about micronutrient deficiency. What can I take on fasting days? All calorie-containing foods and beverages are withheld during fasting. However, you must stay well hydrated throughout your fast. Water, both still and sparkling, is always a good choice. Aim to drink 2 liters of water daily. As a good practice, start every day with 8 ounces of cool water to ensure adequate hydration as the day begins. Adding a squeeze of lemon or lime flavors the water. Alternatively, you can add some slices of orange or cucumber to a pitcher of water for an infusion of flavor, and then enjoy the water throughout the day. You can dilute apple cider vinegar in water and then drink it, which may help with your blood sugars. However, artificial flavors or sweeteners are prohibited. Kool-Aid, Crystal Light, or Tang should not be added to the water. All types of tea are excellent, including green, black, oolong, and herbal. Teas can often be blended together for variety and can be enjoyed hot or cold. You can use spices such as cinnamon or nutmeg to add flavor to your tea. Adding a small amount of cream or milk is also acceptable. Sugar, artificial sweeteners, or flavors are not allowed. Green tea is an especially good choice here. The catechins in green tea are believed to help suppress appetite. Coffee, caffeinated or decaffeinated, is also permitted. A small amount of cream or milk is acceptable, although these do contain some calories. Spices such as cinnamon may be added, but not sweeteners, sugar, or artificial flavors. On hot days, iced coffee is a great choice. Coffee has many health benefits, as previously detailed. Homemade bone broth, made from beef, pork, chicken, or fish bones, is a good choice for fasting days. Vegetable broth is a suitable alternative, although bone broth contains more nutrients. Adding a good pinch of sea salt to the broth will help you stay hydrated. The other fluids, coffee, tea, and water, do not contain sodium, so during longer fasting periods, it is possible to become salt depleted. Although many fear the added sodium, there is far greater danger in becoming salt depleted. For shorter fasts, such as the 24 and 36-hour variety, it probably makes little difference. All vegetables, herbs, or spices are great additions to broth, but do not add bouillon cubes, which are full of artificial flavors and monosodium glutamate. Beware of canned broths. They are poor imitations of the homemade kinds. Refer to the end of this chapter for a bone broth recipe. Be careful to break your fast gently. Overeating right after fasting may lead to stomach discomfort. While not serious, it can be quite uncomfortable. Instead, try breaking your fast with a handful of nuts or a small salad to start. This problem tends to be self-correcting. I get hungry when I fast. What can I do? This is probably the #1 concern of fasters everywhere. People assume they'll be overwhelmed with hunger and unable to control themselves. The truth is that hunger does not persist, but instead comes in waves. If you're experiencing hunger, it will pass. Staying busy during a fast day is often helpful. Fasting during a busy day at work keeps your mind off eating. As the body becomes accustomed to fasting, it starts to burn its stores of fat, and your hunger will be suppressed. Many people note that as they fast, appetite does not increase, but rather starts to decrease. During longer fasts, many people notice that their hunger completely disappears by the 2nd or 3rd day. There are also natural products that can help suppress hunger. Here are my top 5 natural appetite suppressants. 1. Water. As mentioned before, start your day with a full glass of cold water. Staying hydrated helps prevent hunger. Drinking a glass of water prior to a meal may also reduce hunger. Sparkling mineral water may help for noisy stomachs and cramping. 2. Green tea. Full of antioxidants and polyphenols, green tea is a great aid for dieters. The powerful antioxidants may help stimulate metabolism and weight loss. 3. Cinnamon. Cinnamon has been shown to slow gastric emptying and may help suppress hunger. It may also help lower blood sugars and therefore is useful in weight loss. Cinnamon may be added to all teas and coffees for a delicious change. 4. Coffee. While many assume that caffeine suppresses hunger, studies show that this effect is likely related to antioxidants. Both decaffeinated and regular coffee shows greater hunger suppression than caffeine and water. Given its health benefits, refer to chapter 19, there's no reason to limit coffee intake. The caffeine in coffee may also raise your metabolism further, boosting fat burning. 5. Chia seeds. Chia seeds are high in soluble fiber and omega-3 fatty acids. These seeds absorb water and form a gel when soaked in liquid for 30 minutes, which may aid in appetite suppression. They can be eaten dry or made into a gel or pudding. Can I exercise while fasting? Absolutely. There's no reason to stop your exercise routine. All types of exercise, including resistance, weights, and cardio, are encouraged. There's a common misperception that eating is necessary to supply energy to the working body. That's not true. The liver supplies energy via gluconeogenesis. During longer fasting periods, the muscles are able to use fatty acids directly for energy. As your adrenaline levels will be higher, fasting is an ideal time to exercise. The rise in growth hormone that comes with fasting may also promote muscle growth. These advantages have led many, especially those within the bodybuilding community, to take a greater interest in deliberately exercising in a fasted state. Diabetics on medication, however, must take special precautions because they may experience low blood sugars during exercise and fasting. Refer to What If I Have Diabetes hereafter for recommendations. Will fasting make me tired? In our experience at the Intensive Dietary Management Clinic, the opposite is true. Many people find that they have more energy during a fast, probably due to increased adrenaline. Basal metabolism does not fall during fasting, but rises instead. You'll find you can perform all the normal activities of daily living. Persistent fatigue is not a normal part of fasting. If you experience excessive fatigue, you should stop fasting immediately and seek medical advice. Will fasting make me confused or forgetful? No. You should not experience any decrease in memory or concentration. On the contrary, the ancient Greeks believed that fasting significantly improved cognitive abilities, helping the great thinkers attain more clarity and mental acuity. Over the long term, fasting may actually help improve memory. One theory is that fasting activates a form of cellular cleansing called autophagy that may help prevent age-associated memory loss. I get dizzy when I fast. What can I do? Most likely, you're becoming dehydrated. Preventing this requires both salt and water. Be sure to drink plenty of fluids. However, the low salt intake on fasting days may cause some dizziness. Extra sea salt in broth or mineral water often helps alleviate the dizziness. Another possibility is that your blood pressure is too low, particularly if you're taking medications for hypertension. Speak to your physician about adjusting your medications. I get muscle cramps. What can I do? Low magnesium levels, particularly common in diabetics, may cause muscle cramps. You may take an over-the-counter magnesium supplement. You may also soak in Epsom salts, which are magnesium salts. Add a cup to a warm bath and soak in it for half an hour. The magnesium will be absorbed through your skin. I get headaches when I fast. What can I do? As before, try increasing your salt intake. Headaches are quite common the first few times you try fast. It is believed that they're caused by the transition from a relatively high-salt diet to very low-salt intake on fasting days. Headaches are usually temporary, and as you become accustomed to fasting, this problem often resolves itself. In the meantime, take some extra salt in the form of broth or mineral water. My stomach is always growling. What can I do? Try drinking some mineral water. Since I've started fasting, I experience constipation. What can I do? Increasing your intake of fiber, fruits, and vegetables during the non-fasting period may help with constipation. Metamucil can also be taken to increase fiber and stool bulk. If this problem continues, ask your doctor to consider prescribing a laxative. I get heartburn. What can I do? Avoid taking large meals. You may find you have a tendency to overeat once you finish a fast, but try to just eat normally. Breaking a fast is best done slowly. Avoid lying down immediately after a meal and try to stay in an upright position for at least half an hour after meals. Placing wooden blocks under the head of your bed to raise it may help with nighttime symptoms. If none of these options work for you, consult your physician. I take medications with food. What can I do during fasting? Certain medications may cause problems on an empty stomach. Aspirin can cause stomach upset or even ulcers. Iron supplements may cause nausea and vomiting. Metformin, used for diabetes, may cause nausea or diarrhea. Please discuss whether or not these medications need to be continued with your physician. Also, you can try taking your medications with a small serving of leafy greens. Blood pressure can sometimes become low during a fast. If you take blood pressure medications, you may find your blood pressure becomes too low, which can cause lightheadedness. Consult with your physician about adjusting your medications. What if I have diabetes? Special care must be taken if you are diabetic or are taking diabetic medications. Certain diabetic medications, such as metformin, are used for other conditions, such as polycystic ovarian syndrome. Monitor your blood sugars closely and adjust your medications accordingly. Close medical follow-up by your physician is mandatory. If you cannot be followed closely, do not fast. Fasting reduces blood sugars. If you are taking diabetic medications, or especially insulin, your blood sugars may become extremely low, which can be a life-threatening situation. You must take some sugar or juice to bring your sugars back to normal, even if it means you must stop your fast for that day. Close monitoring of your blood sugars is mandatory. Low blood sugar is expected during fasting, so your dose of diabetic medication or insulin may need to be reduced. If you have repeated low blood sugars, it means that you are over-medicated, not that the fasting process is not working. In the intensive dietary management program, we often reduce medications before starting a fast in anticipation of lower blood sugars. Since the blood sugar response is unpredictable, close monitoring with a physician is essential. Monitoring. Close monitoring is essential for all patients, but especially for diabetics. You should also monitor your blood pressure regularly, preferably weekly. Be sure to discuss routine blood work, including electrolyte measurement, with your physician. Should you feel unwell for any reason, stop your fast immediately and seek medical advice. In addition, diabetics should monitor their blood sugars a minimum of twice daily and record this information. In particular, persistent nausea, vomiting, dizziness, fatigue, high or low blood sugars, or lethargy are not normal with intermittent or continuous fasting. Hunger and constipation are normal symptoms and can be managed. Intermittent fasting tips. 1. Drink water. Start each morning with a full 8-ounce glass of water. 2. Stay busy. It'll keep your mind off food. It often helps to choose a busy day at work for a fast day. 3. Drink coffee. Coffee is a mild appetite suppressant. Green tea, black tea, and bone broth may also help. 4. Ride the waves. Hunger comes in waves. It is not continuous. When it hits, slowly drink a glass of water or a hot cup of coffee. Often by the time you've finished, your hunger will have passed. 5. Don't tell everybody you are fasting. Most people will try to discourage you as they do not understand the benefits. A close-knit support group is beneficial, but telling everybody you know is not a good idea. 6. Give yourself 1 month. It takes time for your body to get used to fasting. The first few times you fast may be difficult, so be prepared. Don't be discouraged. It will get easier. 7. Follow a nutritious diet on non-fast days. Intermittent fasting is not an excuse to eat whatever you like. During non-fasting days, stick to a nutritious diet low in sugars and refined carbohydrates. 8. Don't binge. After fasting, pretend it never happened. Eat normally, as if you had never fasted. The last and most important tip is to fit fasting into your own life. Do not limit yourself socially because you're fasting. Arrange your fasting schedule so that it fits in with your lifestyle. There will be times during which it's impossible to fast. Vacation, holidays, weddings. Do not try to force fasting into these celebrations. These occasions are times to relax and enjoy. Afterwards, however, you can simply increase your fasting to compensate. Or just resume your regular fasting schedule. Adjust your fasting schedule to what makes sense for your lifestyle. What to expect? The amount of weight lost varies tremendously from person to person. The longer that you have struggled with obesity, the more difficult you'll find it to lose weight. Certain medications may make it hard to lose weight. You must simply persist and be patient. You'll probably eventually experience a weight loss plateau. Changing either your fasting or dietary regimen, or both, may help. Some patients increase fasting from 24-hour periods to 36-hour periods, or try a 48-hour fast. Some may try eating only once a day, every day. Others may try a continuous fast for an entire week. Changing the fasting protocol is often what's required to break through a plateau. Fasting is no different than any other skill in life. Practice and support are essential to performing it well. Although it has been a part of human culture forever, many people in North America have never fasted in their lives. Therefore, fasting has been feared and rejected by mainstream nutritional authorities as difficult and dangerous. The truth, in fact, is radically different. bone broth recipe. Vegetables, chicken, pork, or beef bones. 1 tablespoon of vinegar, sea salt to taste, pepper to taste, ginger root to taste. 1. Add water to cover. 2. Simmer for 2 to 3 hours until ready. 3. Strain and defat. Appendix C. Meditation and sleep hygiene to reduce cortisol. As discussed in detail in Chapter 8, cortisol raises insulin levels and is a major pathway of weight gain. Therefore, reducing your cortisol levels is an integral part of your overall weight loss effort. Reducing stress levels, practicing meditation, and getting good sleep are all effective methods for achieving lower cortisol levels. Some useful tips follow. Stress reduction. If excessive stress and the cortisol response are causing obesity, then the treatment is to reduce stress, but that's easier said than done. Removing yourself from stressful situations is important, but not always possible. Work and family demands won't go away by themselves. Luckily, there are some time-tested methods of stress relief that can help us cope. It's a popular misconception that stress relief involves sitting in front of the television and doing nothing. In fact, you can't relieve stress by doing nothing. Stress relief is an active process. Meditation, tai chi, yoga, religious practice, and massage are all good choices. Regular exercise is an excellent way to relieve stress and lower cortisol levels. The original intent of the fight or flight response was to mobilize the body for physical exertion. Exercise can also release endorphins and improve mood. This benefit far exceeds the relatively modest caloric reduction achieved by exercise. Social connectivity is another great stress reliever. Everybody remembers how hard it was to be singled out in high school. That's no different at any age. Being part of a group or community is part of our human heritage. For some, religion and churches can provide this feeling of belonging. The power of human touch also cannot be underestimated. Massage can be beneficial for this reason. Mindfulness meditation. Through mindfulness meditation, we can become more aware of our thoughts. The objective in meditation is to take a step outside of our thoughts and, as an observer, become aware of them. From this perspective, we can pay precise, non-judgmental attention to the details of our experiences. Mindfulness meditation alleviates stress by helping us practice being present. It also involves reminding us of pleasant experiences from our past when we have been able to overcome struggle and achieve personal success. There are many forms of meditation, but all have the same general goals. Tai chi and yoga are forms of moving meditation with long traditions. We don't want to get rid of our thoughts, only become aware of them. We aren't trying to change ourselves, but instead become aware of ourselves as we presently are and objectively observe our thoughts, good or bad. Meditation can help us work through the thoughts, enabling us to cope with stress much more effectively. Mindfulness meditation can be particularly helpful in working through our feelings of hunger and cravings for foods. Meditation often only takes 20 to 30 minutes and can be done anytime. Cultivate the habit of waking up in the morning, having a glass of cold water, and beginning your meditation. 3 basic aspects are involved in mindfulness meditation: body, breath, and thought. Body. First, you want to connect with your body. Find a quiet location where you will not be disturbed for the next 20 minutes. Sit down either on the ground, on a cushion, or in a chair. Cross your legs if you are sitting on the ground or on a cushion. If you are sitting on a chair, make sure your feet are placed comfortably on the ground, or on a pillow if your feet do not touch the ground below. It is important that you feel comfortable and relaxed in the position you choose. Rest your hands on your thighs, palms facing down. Gaze down at the floor about 6 feet ahead of you and focus on the tip of your nose, and then gently close your eyes. Feel your chest becoming open and your back becoming strong. Begin your meditation sitting in this position. For a couple of minutes, focus on how your body and your environment feel. If your thoughts wander away from your body, gently bring them back to your body and environment. Do this throughout your meditation every time your mind wanders away. Breath. Once you have begun to relax, start to focus in gently on your breath. Breathe in through your nose to the count of 6, and exhale through your mouth slowly to the count of 6. Pay attention to how your breath feels entering and exiting your body. Thoughts. As you sit, you may become bombarded by thoughts. Pay attention to these thoughts. If they cause you to experience any negative emotions, try to think back to a time when you experienced similar challenges and remember how it felt to overcome those challenges. Work through these thoughts until your body begins to feel lighter. If you notice that you have become so caught up in your thoughts that you have forgotten where you are, gently bring your thoughts back to your breath. Sleep hygiene. There are several keys to good sleep hygiene, and none of these involve the use of medication. Medications disturb the normal sleep architecture, the pattern of REM and non-REM sleep. Simple but effective ways to improve sleep include the following: sleep in complete darkness, sleep in loose-fitting clothes, keep regular sleeping hours, try to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night, see the light first thing in the morning, keep your bedroom slightly cool, do not keep a TV in your bedroom. This has been an Audible Studios production of The Obesity Code, written by Jason Fung, MD, performed by Brian Nishi. Producer, Mike Charzuk. Copyright 2016 by Jason Fung, MD. Production copyright 2016 by Audible Inc. Audible Studios is a division of Audible Inc.
Audible hopes you enjoyed this program.
Here's a recommended preview based on your listening. To listen to the full title, you can buy it in your player.
This is Audible. Victory Bell Audio presents The Complete Guide to Fasting. Heal your body through intermittent, alternate day, and extended fasting by Jason Fung, MD, with Jimmy Moore, narrated by Jimmy Moore. The information included in this book is for educational purposes only. It is not intended or implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice. The reader should always consult his or her healthcare provider to determine the appropriateness of the information for his or her own situation, or if he or she has any questions regarding a medical condition or treatment plan. Listening to the information in this book does not create a physician-patient relationship. To the listener of this audiobook, please note that portions of the content from the print version of The Complete Guide to Fasting are available in the form of a complimentary PDF downloadable from audible.com or the iTunes library. These include sample fasting plans, recipes, visual materials such as graphs and charts, testimonials, and bibliographic references. If you purchase this audiobook on iTunes, the PDF may appear in your music library rather than your book library. Should you run into any issues accessing these materials, please contact Victory Belt Publishing at victorybelt.com to request the PDF. Introduction. by Jason Fung, MD. I grew up in Toronto, Canada, and studied biochemistry at the University of Toronto, where I also completed medical school and my residency in internal medicine. After my residency, I chose to study nephrology, kidney disease, at the University of California, Los Angeles, mostly at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center and West Los Angeles VA Medical Centers, then known as the VA Wadsworth. Each field of internal medicine draws its own personalities, and nephrology has a reputation of being a thinker's specialty. Kidney disease involves intricate fluid and electrolyte problems, and I enjoy these puzzles. In 2001, I returned to Toronto to start my career as a nephrologist. Type 2 diabetes is far and away the leading cause of kidney disease, and I treat many hundreds of patients with this disease. Most type 2 diabetics also suffer from obesity. By the early 2010s, my interest in puzzles combined with my professional focus on obesity and type 2 diabetes had led me to focus on diet and nutrition. How did I go from preaching conventional medicine to prescribing intensive dietary strategies, including fasting? Despite what you might think, nutrition is not a topic covered extensively in medical school. Most schools, including the University of Toronto, spend a bare minimum of time teaching nutrition. There were perhaps a handful of lectures on nutrition in my first year of medical school, and virtually no teaching on nutrition throughout the rest of medical school, internship, residency, and fellowship. Out of the 9 years spent in formal medical education, I would estimate I had 4 hours of lectures on nutrition. As a result, I had no more than a passing interest in nutrition until the mid-2000s. At the time, the Atkins diet promoting low-carb eating was in full swing. It was everywhere. Some family members of mine tried it and were ecstatic with the results. However, like most conventionally trained physicians, I believe their arteries would eventually pay the price. I, along with thousands of other physicians, had been taught and certainly believed that low-carbohydrate diets were simply a fad and the low-fat diet would prove to be the best. Then studies on the low-carb diet started to appear in the most prestigious medical journal in the world, the New England Journal of Medicine. Randomized controlled trials compared the Atkins diet to the standard low-fat diet that most healthcare providers recommended. These studies all came to the same startling conclusion. The low-carb diet was significantly better for weight loss.
You've reached the end of this preview. To listen to the full title, you can buy it in your player. Here's another recommendation based on your listening.
This is Audible.
Life in the Fasting Lane. How to Make Intermittent Fasting a Lifestyle and Reap the Benefits of Weight Loss and Better Health. By Jason Fung, MD, Eve Mayer, and Megan Ramos. Read by Brian Nishi, Courtney Patterson, and Piper Goodeve.
Introduction. Eve Mayer. I grew up in South Louisiana, where you don't eat to live. You live to eat. If Willy Wonka had set up shop in my hometown of Thibodaux, he would have specialized in crawfish, gumbo, boudin, and etouffee instead of lollipops, jawbreakers, and gumdrops. To top it off, my mom is one of the best cooks in the universe, and growing up in our family, we followed the saying, laissez les bons temps rouler, meaning let the good times roll. We celebrated absolutely everything, and those festivities, shared with friends, family, and neighbors, centered around food. Cake was love. Crawfish fettuccine was happiness. Fried beignets dusted with generous amounts of powdered sugar meant community. When I was 8, my mom was diagnosed with a devastating chronic disease for which there was no known cure. For 34 years, I watched her fight for her life. She went to specialists all over the country, and she dealt with treatments and medicines that often made her feel even worse. Thankfully, in 2016, when I was 42 years old, she finally conquered her disease. But until then, I wasn't sure if the person at the center of my life would make it another